Welcome to another episode of the All Pop No Culture Podcast. I'm your host this week, Kevin. We have a really fun show for you this week. Kim joins Andrew and I this week to talk about Cunk on Earth, a show on Netflix. It is a parody of historical shows talking about the story of humanity and our progress through the centuries. We also talk about video games a little bit, God of War, The Last of Us the game, and then I talk about Animal Control on Fox, which is a sitcom, hilarious. Andrew talks about the new Scream film. Andrew and I talk about Picard and Attack on Titan. The first time he and I really get to sit down and discuss the show and more so about what it's about, more than just the love of the show, which is great. That'll be a semi-spoiler filled deep dive, but very interesting. And then we'll finish off the show with The Last of Us, the penultimate episode, episode 8, When We Are in Need. And that is our show this week. As always, thank you for watching. If you're listening, thank you for listening. We really enjoyed putting this one together for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share. If you've seen somebody sharing it on Facebook, by all means, share it again. Next week, we should have a great one with, hopefully, Alex comes back from the original show, but he's a big Last of Us fan, so it'll be great to talk to him about the series as a whole, and then obviously the season finale. And with that, I hope you enjoy the episode. Are you a Star Trek nerd at all?
No, I hated Star Trek until I saw like the recent movies. Well, whatever, like 10 years ago. And then I thought, okay, I will try.
Chris Pine will get you every time.
Yeah. He did me. Yeah, I grew up without Star Wars. I saw Star Wars when I was like 17 and was like, I don't really know. I don't really know if I get it.
That's because you saw the wrong ones at 17.
Which ones did you see? Do you remember?
I saw the original ones.
Okay. That's true. At 17, it would have to be the originals because I think we were around 20 when.
Oh my God, You're right. The Phantom Menace didn't even show up until like we were 22. Like it was 99.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But I came back around.
Yeah.
Came back around.
Yeah. So, I mean, since you're here and before we jump into too much, do you have anything? Because we'll talk about Cunk a little bit because I think I've watched 2 episodes. Andrew, I think it sounds like has watched a little more, and I think you're probably caught up. Did you? There's 5 of them right now, right?
Yeah, there's 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched 2. I literally just watched them. But besides that show, do you have anything else?
I haven't been able to watch anything this week. I've devoted some time to continuing to learn to play Destiny. My son's downstairs playing God of War, and I'm like trying to, because he's gotten pretty far. I'm like,
is he on the new one? He's doing the newest one?
This is the one before Ragnarok, because we decided we wanted Ragnarok, and we decided, okay, we need to play the big one that everyone loves.
Yeah, that one is excellent. So are you playing with him or just watching?
We play separately. He can't watch me play. He gets super frustrated. It's any kind of so he has a very different shooting style. Like he is just in there and shoots as fast as he can, and everything around him and just runs. And I take a step back and I, just take my time and want to kill everything first. So he can't handle that. And he plays on kind of a difficult mode, and I like story mode. So.
Yep. That's 100% how I am too. Funny enough, my youngest son just in the course of the last week played all the way through The Last of Us, the first game. So he played and beat that. It's not the longest game. It's only like a 12-hour game. It's not particularly long for a game. So, if you really take your time, he found all the little cheats and stuff because he was more interested in picking up a lot of the story and stuff. Yeah. And with the newest version, the one for the PlayStation 5, there's a bunch of cheats and stuff that you turn on. Like there's like kind of like a super sneak mode where people just can't see you. You can literally walk in front of people as long as you're crouched down and just go by. So he would just creep through entire levels without having to fight or anything, because that's what frustrates him the most. But he really enjoyed it, so that was cool. So same boat. Like he finished that. My kids have all seen me play it at some point or another, because I played it so many times. But it's fun to watch them do it, and I think it's cool. Like I really think it's cool if you're playing God of War. I think that's awesome. It's a great game. Like it really.
So we almost reeled in my other son, who is like really resistant to play it, and said it's supposed to be one of the best video game stories. And
Hmm.
he's a big fan of this game called Undertale. I don't know if you've heard of it, but
I've
it's
heard of
just,
Undertale. I've never played it, but I've heard of it.
I don't even know how to describe it, but that's like his life, that story to him. So I'm hoping we can get him on board too.
It's funny because there are very different types of games. There's games that are designed to be like ridiculously hard, right? There are games out there that are like is it the Dark Souls game where you go through and you get to an enemy and they're literally designed for you to die like 15 times before you get past it because you have to figure out every little thing about it to move on. So it not only is it a battle, but it's a puzzle in fighting the right way. And I'm like, I don't need that. Like that would drive me batshit crazy.
Yeah,
Like
not so fun.
I don't know if I'm too old to learn at this point. Like I don't know what it is, but I'm like, no, thank you. I have I don't buy a lot of games. I signed up for GameFly like 5 or 6 years ago, which is a game rental service. They send you one game. It's like $15 a month. And it hasn't been the case lately. But for a long time, I would beat most games in a week to 2 weeks. So I was getting 2 games a month for $15.
Dang.
And I don't replay most games. So like it was a great deal for me. I'd get games and play, and I still get them, but I tend to hang on to them a lot longer now. But I've gotten stuck in games and been like, it's not worth the $7.50, and like put it back in the envelope and send it back and be like, no, thank you.
It gives me OG Netflix nostalgia.
It really is. And until they find a way to rent digital games, which I don't think they will, they're trying to make their money. I think that's what it is. That's probably the best way to do it. Video games don't have the advantage of starting in the theater and making their millions and millions of dollars back in the theater. So they really need everybody to pay as close to full price as they can for the games. But yeah, I know I'm super stoked because not only that, if you finish both God of War games, is it Amazon that's developing a God of War series, TV series?
That sounds right to me.
So that'll be like, to me, it's really interesting because you take The Last of Us, which is very grounded, very, real world. If you watch the show, it's super gritty. Like, yes, you have these infected things out there, but it's a really grounded reality-based show. God of War is like you're doing a Lord of the Rings, you're doing a Game of Thrones thing. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off.
How many years do I have to finish the game? Like when does it come out?
Well, I would imagine, seeing how Prime is working, how much money they're going to spend on it, because now all of a sudden you've had this bar set really, really high by The Last of Us, because the closest anybody came, funny enough, was recently, I think, was Halo. And people generally liked the Halo series. Like, it was okay for a video game adaptation, but it's always been that if you can't adapt a video game to a movie, it just doesn't work. And one of the reasons is that you're playing a video game, you're involved in everything that's happening. So to translate that to, you're not in control of anything, you're just following along. The Last of Us works for that because it's entirely story driven. Yeah, there's a lot of action, but there's no options in that game. You are going from point A to point B to C all the way till the end. You can never waver from the story. Even God of War, you can kind of like go over here and do a side quest and do this thing, and then go over here and do this other thing while the main story is there. But The Last of Us doesn't have that. Last of Us is as linear as it gets. You keep on powering through. So we'll see with God of War, but I think with the bar set where it is on The Last of Us, even if God of War isn't as good or as gritty, the effort will be there to make a good adaptation.
So I just wanted to say that I use my trusty Google, and
Hell yeah.
there is no release date yet for God
Okay.
of War, but I'm reading something from December 15, 2022. But it is being created by the people who did The Expanse, which for me was
Oh yeah.
all right. But then also The Wheel of Time, which I hear was not good. And that was
Didn't
on
like Wheel of
Apple
Time.
Plus. So again, I think what I said, I think when I maybe posted it on my page was like, I'm not like I'm not like I would give it an amber light, not a green light or a red light as far as like, is it going to be any good? Because, you know, HBO is the gold standard. And if it's like if HBO said we're making God of War, oh yeah, it's gonna be fucking amazing. But because
Yeah.
it's Amazon, like it could suck. But
Yeah.
that said, like I would guesstimate 2024, 2025. I would think
Yeah.
that's when it
Yeah.
would
I think it's going to be a little ways off because they haven't talked casting. Um, there will be a significant special effects budget for this. And you look at what HBO spent on The Last of Us, and it's still a very practical show. You're not talking about green screen, you're not talking about effects. Like they built towns, they built houses, like they built everything they needed that wasn't already there. Now, like the mall scene, they shot in an actual mall in Canada. But it it's a different thing. It's so different. It's like that's why I compared it to like the Lord of the Rings. If you look at what Amazon did with the Lord of the Rings, that's kind of what I expect to see from God of War. Like that level of money, that level of effects budget and visual feel. It's definitely not the same story or the same type of story. It's definitely more war oriented, and it'll be faster paced than the last, or sorry, than the Lord of the Rings. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Amazon. I think Amazon is trying harder than Netflix at this point, but not as hard as HBO. But I think they know that HBO is their competitor. So if they want to like be that next level thing, that's who they're competing with.
Yeah.
So
you got time, kid.
I
Yeah,
got time. Okay, good. It'll probably take me that long.
it won't though. Like when you start to get pulled in, as long as you, the big thing is like if you have the time.
Yeah.
But that it's a good game, and the longer you go, the more it pulls you in. Because Christopher Judge is amazing as Kratos. He's got the best voice. Like,
Yeah.
he's awesome. So it's a lot of fun. He won. So they do the video game awards every year. He won the best actor award for Ragnarok, which I haven't played. I don't know how good he is or whatever. He had the longest fucking acceptance speech in like all of award show history. He just kept on going, and it was hilarious. But it's great because he's got such an impressive voice.
Yeah.
But the dude just went off, like just rambling, like, but like not like drunk, incoherent rambling, like he was making sense, but he just kept going. It was great. That's the one where they did the live action with Hosier for the song from
Okay.
Ragnarok 2. But
Have you heard that at all, Andrew?
Well, actually, I just wanted to read this really quick. When asked by one follower how he's enjoying The Last of Us so far, this is Corey Barlog, the God of War game director.
Yep.
He says, truly amazing, humbling, inspiring work that fills me with joy and happiness for all who made it, and no small amount of pressure, frustration, and a wee bit of jealousy that is so fucking good. Seriously, what they are achieving is goddamn monumental. So proud of them. So basically, yeah, like he said basically what you just said. Like the God of War people are looking at The Last of Us and saying, all right, that's who we got to beat.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I had to read that really quick.
No. I was just asking if you heard that song that we kind of mentioned last week that Bear McCreary.
Oh no, I haven't, but I'm sure it's good.
You got to look it up. Bear McCreary and Hosier. Even if you just find the live performance from
the video game awards
from the game, but yeah, I think I said it last week, but Bear McCreary, he went out, and especially for this performance, they found an orchestra that plays all these old, like original Scandinavian instruments. So like it sounds super cool. And then Hosier's got just an awesome voice. Like that dude's cool. So it's a really rad song. It's really cool.
BSG and Cloverfield 2 are the two Bear McCreary scores that I'm a fan of. I haven't heard Outlander yet. It was so funny how like last week you were talking about Bear McCreary from, and I'm like, Battlestar Galactica, and you're like Outlander. I'm like, oh. Anyway.
I think Bear McCreary might have done 24 also.
And I think he also did Terminator, Sarah Connor Chronicles. So like
that would make sense.
He's the shit. Dude.
Yeah,
he's been around for a long time.
Lord of the Rings. Like the
that's right. Yeah, he did.
That's right. He did do it. Yes,
yeah.
The Amazon show.
Which the music is really good in that.
I'm still BSG all the way, man. Sorry. That's my shit. Like right there. Like, oh my god.
I love Battlestar Galactica. I need to go back and rewatch it again. That one.
You ever watched that, Kim? That's not
no, I haven't. I don't even know what it's about. I mean, I remember it and remember it being huge, but
yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, sci-fi isn't really your jam, right?
No, I get fascinated if it's on and I'll get sucked in, and just it's a whole new world to me of like I watch and go, how do they think of this? How I don't do that with any other genre.
A buddy of mine, another Cal High person, surprise, surprise, doesn't like sci-fi, but he's actually the one who said, Andrew, you would love this shit. Like, first of all, one thing that I noticed is like, you know how in science fiction, like in the space battles, it's like lasers, like
yeah.
No, BSG, it's like more like bullets. Like it feels more real, you know. It's actually I think for a non-sci-fi person, I think BSG is actually pretty. And I'll also say it's a really great. It was a show of the times because it was actually kind of very. I mean, would it be much to say, Kevin, if I said it was kind of like a bit like the Iraq War type thing, like as in the one W did, like with the insurgents and all that. There was a bit of like war allegory shit going on there. But basically the gist of Battlestar Galactica is, I'll just say it, I'm selling you now, or trying to sell you, is like humans have made artificial life forms called Cylons. They're robots, and there was a big war, and then they decided to call a truce. And basically, after about, I think, 40 years or whatever of truce, the war starts up again. But the real kicker is that the Cylons have become so advanced, they now look like us. So basically, a human can be a Cylon, and the war begins. And there's this one scientist guy who, like, basically fucked the world. Oh, by the way, this is not Earth. Like, this is before Earth. This is like some other fucking shit. It's called Caprica. I'm being such a nerd. And it's so far away, and they're trying to find Earth because the last, 30,000 people left. The last colony are on a spaceship called the Galactica, trying to find this mythical place called Earth to survive. And the Cylons are chasing them. That's it. I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah, and there's a ton
Peacock.
of political. Is it on Peacock right now? Mm-hmm. There's a ton of political infighting. There's mild romance. I'd say it's definitely not a show where it's driven by romance like an Outlander or something like that. But you have relationships. You have. It's deeper storytelling. The sci-fi. It's like a great story that takes place in a sci-fi world, instead of a sci-fi show that is then trying to create a story within itself, right? Like this could take place anywhere. It just happens that the backdrop is these people fleeing for their lives, to try and get to a new home. It's almost like you could make this same show and make it about the fucking Mayflower, right? Like it's the same idea. But it is really, really good. And the actors are all good. You've got Edward James Olmos, Mary.
Forget her name, but she's the Rosalind. I mean,
from Dances with Wolves. She's the main girl in Dances with Wolves.
You know that. Okay.
Katie Sackhoff is like the sci-fi queen at this point. She's in every fucking sci-fi thing.
But that was her first appearance, as far as I know, and she was amazing.
She's so good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
How old is this show? It's like
2004.
Is it 2004? Yeah.
2009.
15 years old.
The only downside to it is that it was made on the Sci-Fi Channel, so some of the effects are a little dated. But they kind of intentionally did that when they made it. Like it was TV show special effects at the top of TV show special effects, but they weren't It's not like they were Star Wars Episode 1, where those actually look terrible now.
Correct.
Whereas Battlestar Galactica doesn't. It feels old, but it doesn't look bad.
It's not bad. No.
Yeah, so it's really good. And like Andrew said, the battles that you have between the fighters and stuff feels more like a Top Gun than it does
Anything Star Wars.
Yeah,
if
for
there's no
sure.
losers,
Yeah.
I'll just say we'll send like the pilot. All I need is the pilot. If you like, it is a 2-hour pilot. It's like a movie. But
Okay.
if the movie sucks, then don't proceed. If you
Right.
actually like the character, I mean, that's all you need is the pilot.
Is it 5 seasons?
Perfect.
4.
Is it 4?
Yeah.
And not 20 something episodes either. It's
You don't want to. No, actually, we had this conversation a couple of podcasts ago. Actually,
did we?
I think it is, man. Like
Is
that's
it
why
pretty
I'm
long?
not. Yeah, but it's okay. It's like again, but I mean, we both fucking love it. Like I binged the shit out of that show.
Mhm.
Oh my god, and you guys know me. I have no attention span, none. Okay, but like man, the summer of 2010 was when I watched the whole thing, and my life's been enriched. I almost spoiled some shit, but I'm not gonna spoil it. But it changed the way I look at life. Like, I mean, that's what I look for in TV. Like, I look for. I was telling Kevin, like, I look for death because I actually apply the shit that happens in these TV shows to my own life. Like, it actually does impact my decisions. So even like Apollo was my dude. I'm sorry, Kevin. Like, he was my dude. Like, so I'd look at Apollo and I'd see him make a mistake. And I go, okay, don't do what Apollo did. Or if Apollo did something right, I'd be like, okay, do what he did. You know, fucking what's his name? I'm jumping around. Don Draper from fucking
Mad Men. John
dude,
Hamm.
He has man, he's done so much good in my life. Let me tell you. Like, I would ask myself, what would Don Draper do? And the shit worked out. So anyway, that's what I mean. Anyway, yes, there are long ass seasons. Season one's the short one. Season 1's
Okay.
11 episodes. But then seasons 2 through 4 are longer. But even the cliffhanger for season 1, you remember what happened, right, Kev? Like, yeah, you'll want to continue because they get crazy. The show gets crazy early on.
Okay.
And it has what I think is one of the best endings of a science fiction show.
Me and you are one
ever.
of the ones who love that shit. Everyone else hates it.
Really? I think it's fucking genius. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
I fucking love it too. I love it.
Now I need to know.
Yeah,
my friend hated it too. He was like, "Oh, it's so cheap and so easy way out." Now I'm wondering if that and Lost are similar. I don't know. Maybe they are.
Maybe.
Yeah, but probably. But no, it was perfect. It was fucking chef's kiss. Before
it's dope.
My hierarchy, such a weird show today, is Attack on Titan. Yeah, fuck it. Maybe it is Battlestar Galactica. Game of Thrones was above BSG until the last season. Down. So then BSG, but for me, Attack is still number 1 for me. But BSG is fucking up there. Like, it's just can't forget Breaking Bad. Anyway, so but those are all. Have you seen Breaking Bad, Kim?
No.
Damn, shit. Okay, you might like that one too. Although there's no romance, but it's a great character study.
It's an amazing character study. It does tend to be a little slow for people that are looking. It is definitely. It's not an action-packed show at all, but if you're into the interpersonal drama, it is deep as shit. Like it'll get you for sure.
We were working through Better Call Saul, and then we're gonna.
I think if you like Better Call Saul,
if you like,
you should like Breaking Bad. But it's a little less funny.
Well, but here's the thing. I think all right. Basically, Better Call Saul, it's a prequel, right? But it's like I feel like the shit that happens in Better Call Saul, it hits you more. I think if you see Breaking Bad first, but it's okay. It's okay. Finish that shit. But I think Breaking Bad has more like gravitas. And by the way, Better Call Saul. Okay, Saul Goodman is a textbook. I love those shows because Saul Goodman he went from Slip and Jimmy is an ENFP. He was a feeler. He acted on his emotion. Whereas Saul is an ENTP. So he cut the fucking feeler shit and became more of a strategist. So either way, ENTPs are tricksters. And yes, Jen, you scored as an ENTP, so you're probably pretty slippery when we don't. Anyway, I'm sorry. That's who he is. And then Kim Wexler, who is one of the most amazing characters. I fucking love Kim. She is probably ESTJ. Loyal as fuck. All about the rules. But that's what she loves about Saul, because he gets her to like, do crazy shit that she wouldn't do on her own. But she's also so loyal because anyways, how far are you guys in Better Call Saul?
We're only, I think, in the first season.
Oh God. Okay, then I'm so glad I haven't said shit, because there's so much to go. So his brother's still alive and I mean,
it's okay. I already knew he was gonna die. I don't remember how, but I mean, there's no protecting it. Like, there was like a certain era of
I suck. I suck. I'm not saying another word. Carry on, fellas. I suck.
Happening things. Okay, I already knew that. I was
okay, good.
And I've seen, bits of Breaking Bad. It was all the things that came on when I had little kids and missed out on that whole era.
I recommend Breaking Bad, but it definitely is a show that you have to sit down, have the hour to watch, 45 minutes to watch, because it was on FX or whatever at the time. And then maybe take a day before the next episode, because a lot of the time they're heavy. Okay. They're like I said, they're not fast paced, but it is an amazing story. Like, there's a reason that when people talk about the best TV shows of all time, Breaking Bad is up there, top 5 most of the time now. So it's definitely worth checking out. Okay. But you have been playing video games and haven't watched anything else. I have one other thing to talk about that I'll talk about in a minute, but we might as well, you know what? I'll talk about it right now. Really briefly, if either of you ever watched Community? I know you probably didn't, Andrew. You're not much of a
I'm not a comedy guy, but I did watch the paintball episodes because a friend of mine said, just watch this shit because like the Marvel directors, right? But keep going, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Did you watch Community, Kim?
I've seen some of it, not a lot of it.
So the main guy from Community, whose name all of a sudden is escaping me, even though I always know
what you're talking about.
The his name. Guy?
Yes. He's number one, when he was on Talk Soup, that show was fantastic. Talk Soup did not get as much recognition as I think it deserved. Talk Soup was a fantastic show. But he is now he's kind of the headliner on a new show called Animal Control on Fox. There's only 4 episodes so far. It's really funny. Like, it's really entertaining. Much like Community, I think it is more of a ensemble show, even though he's like the biggest name in it for sure. I don't know. I don't actually recognize any of the other actors on the show, which is almost a benefit because they're so funny. Like, they're so great. He's got this young kid as a partner, so he's kind of a they all work at Animal Control, right? So they're just going out on calls, trying to wrangle in whatever animals on the loose, or convince a bear to get out of somebody's hot tub and go back into the forest. Like, they're doing this stuff. It takes place in Seattle. And with respect to the things that they do, while it's silly, it's still like, it's not cartoony. It's like, it's grounded to a degree. Like, they go out and weird shit happens, but it's with real animals and situations that are exaggerated for sure, but potentially could be real. And so he has this new partner that is a kid that decided he wanted to get into, I don't know if he wanted to get into animal control or just the police department or whatever, but he used to be a snowboarder, like a competition snowboarder. So he's got kind of that like snowboarder, attitude or whatever, but not a bad attitude. Like, he's super fun. Just like, think of like a skateboarder from when we were kids, the same kind of mentality. And so he's a lot of fun. And then the other two, there's I don't know exactly what nationality, Middle Eastern, looks potentially Indian. His daughter was on
Ravi
the last.
Patel.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at him because he had a pretty funny movie called Meet the Patels.
Did he really? He's
Yeah.
fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
In the first episode, there's a scene where he gets a call from the school principal, and his little one is potty training and having a hard time, and he like turns around all embarrassed, and he starts singing this little song that he's created for his daughter to get her to go to the bathroom. The song is fucking hilarious, but as it goes on, you can tell that he's sung it before because everybody else in the office starts joining in and singing. Dude, I might try and find it and put it in the episode and see if it doesn't get us in trouble, but it is so funny.
Hey, buddy. It's okay. Listen, just like we do at home, okay? I know what to do when I'm about to poo. I go to the potty, put my underwear down, and I sit and wait. I sit and wait. I sit and wait until the poop falls down. Then I wipe and wipe till brown leaves town. I put it in the potty and I flush it down. Woo!
Banger.
He was in one of my favorite shows, Master of None.
Oh,
You guys want-
Okay,
Master
okay.
of Nine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen him in something else too, and I don't know what it
He's
is,
in a
but
lot.
yeah. And then his partner is this girl from New Zealand who I've never seen before, and she's hilarious. They have a new boss who's a little meek and cute, but she's funny. It's a fun show. I would say it's family safe, although the last episode definitely had a lot of talk about sex in it for the first time. So in that regard, you're probably looking at closer to teen years.
More sex than The Simpsons and Family Guy? Or are we good? Because that's all my kid watches. The Simpsons, I never knew growing up, like Marge and Homer, every episode, you guys, every episode. Damn, they have a very vibrant marriage.
You never see the activity. Like there's no,
Yeah.
in one of the episodes, in episode 3, there's the afterglow moment, right, where they're both laying in bed, but you don't see anything happen. But the next episode, they talk about it a lot. There's a lot of jokes about, finishing early and stuff like that. Like if your kid's not old enough to understand that, or just at the age where they understand it, like they might be a little weirded out, especially watching it with their parents, right? But it's not inappropriate. It's just adult in that regard. But it's really fun. So I would definitely recommend it to anybody that enjoys sitcoms. Andrew, you probably wouldn't like it because it is definitely a silly sitcom, but it's fun. It's fun. I hope it lasts a while because I'm really enjoying it. Joel McHale. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And he's great. He's very Joel McHale in it. Like he might as well be the guy from Community. Like he's very similar in his attitude. But it works. And like his backstory on the show so far is that like he was a real cop. Some shit went down. And he had to step away from that, but didn't want to completely step away. So now he's in animal control. But yeah, tons of fun. Like I said, if I can find that clip for that song, I'm going to try and sneak it in here because when they played, I was fucking dying. So cool. And so with that, Andrew, do you have anything else you've watched before we jump into?
Well, I feel like we should just go ahead and do Cunk, but I did see Scream 6 today. I want to go right into Cunk if that's okay with you. I mean, let's keep it going. So, who wants to go first? Do you want to go, or do you want to just hear what we had to say?
I would love to hear what you guys have to say, because whenever I try to talk about the show, I never know what to say. I can't remember the jokes right. It is, and I always attribute that my whole life I thought this is my weakness, my biggest weakness. He asked me like, what's a book about? And I go, oh, or what's a movie about? And then Andrew taught me that is an ENFJ thing. I remember the themes and the vibe and the feeling, but I cannot get the words straight across. It's like, this happened and then this happened. Yes, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, and then I can tell you.
All right. So, keeping it 100%, when I started the show, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this because it was like so dumb, like really, really dumb. And I, and I can't believe I'm saying this on the damn show, but I gotta keep it real. So I'm watching the show and I'm just getting distracted by this like weird ass fucking mole here. I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't get it. Like it's fucking like just you could do something about that, right? But here's what happened, okay? Dum dum dum. Pump up the jam, pump
Oh
it,
shit!
and then I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, holy shit, this is. And then like the random ass like captions that would happen during the video. I'm like, holy shit, this. Okay, all right, you're getting me in, okay.
What's
So then,
and what was great about the pump up the jam segment is it went way too long.
yes,
Like
dude,
they played way too much of that song. And it's so funny because you're just waiting for it to end and move on to the next thing.
And then it ends, and she keeps talking like nothing happened, and it has nothing to do with the song. But it was so now, and it was a great little. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, so was the beginning, and then believe it or not, and maybe it's a comedy thing, you have to just kind of like let yourself go and like let yourself just get into the vein and the vibe of what it's doing, and then all of a sudden it's almost like in Quantumania when you drink the ooze you can understand it. Like I just started understanding the humor and it was actually funny. So then I'm watching like her say these ridiculous things to like the people she's interviewing, and I'm just like I'm observing how certain ones are like either like going along with it or one person actually at some point breaks, which is great. I was just like, so like, are they in on it or not? So I was just listening to that. And then I think the last thing I'll say for my opening salvo is I actually found it educational, man. Like certainly the first couple episodes, I'm like, I know this shit, so I don't care, right? But as it keeps going on, I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool because even though she'll say things that are just totally mispronounced, or like the Titan 1C versus the Titanic, like it's like it's dude, this shit is random. And then like every time the pump up the jam, and it's just like it was just like Charlie Brooker. It's like Black Mirror. You can see like British humor is a trip, so
yes, it
went fast, and and that's the other thing I liked. It was fast, and by the end I was actually a little sad it was over. So it's and also I completely forgot about the damn mole. So it's like it's crazy that like you can start off something kind of resistant, even though you want to like it, because like I was talking about last episode, Kim, like I like you as a person, obviously, so I want to like your shit, but I was just kind of like, oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but by the end it actually won me over. So like, yeah, man, like it was educational, it was funny, yeah, educational and funny, honestly, and random as fuck. So those three things: educational, funny, and random. So that is my verdict on Cunk on Earth. Go see it, seriously, guys. It's
on Netflix. It's a quick burn. Every episode's 30 minutes.
You're not gonna give up a lot of your time.
Yeah, the pump up the jam thing was like, I was enjoying it beforehand because I to a degree at least knew what I was in for. I had seen the trailer. Kim, you've talked about it a couple of times a little bit, and so I knew what was going to happen, not necessarily the scale it was going to happen at, but when the first time they played Pump Up the Jam, and then it really went way too long, which just like the longer it's going, the funnier it gets. And then in the second, I don't think they did the captions in the first episode, but the second episode, they started throwing in the captions. One of them said, "This is the national anthem of Canada."
Yes.
And I was done. Like I was dying.
There's more.
There's so many. There's so many in there.
I'm looking for like I want it. It's just like, who thought of that? Like, why pump up the jam? And why like the captions they write like something about like there's like a code that can give you the ability to phase through solid matter. Like, I mean, it's like, what? And then she'll say just the questions that she asks. Like some of them are so like she talked about like even I think like spunk, like the Russians launched the spunk satellite, it would just be like blobs in space, right? You're thinking of Sputnik. No, it's spunk. It's just like what? Like she's so earnest in her like in her feigned like ignorance.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Anyways, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, like the second episode, the one that's all about religion, she's like, oh, and they needed a Christ-like figure. So wasn't it great when a guy that just happened to be named Jesus Christ showed up?
Oh, thank you. And then even the Muslim, like the Islam thing,
shit.
like she had like a code, like these are
Yeah.
I can stay on script, it blows away, and then it just goes, this is blocked in your country for
Yeah.
like a good minute.
Yeah. Like it definitely like it is an uncomfortable show. Like that's the whole point of it, right? So everything that is intended to be a cut in or take away is too long. So like that cut in was too long. Pump Up the Jam, always too long, but in a way that is hilarious. Because number one, you can't hear too much Pump Up the Jam. It's not possible.
I think the streams are going to go up after this fucking show. I know I want to add it on Apple Music.
Yeah.
I'm totally getting technochronic.
I saw an interview with her. I guess there was a show called Cunk on Britain. So kind of the people, the experts that went in knew it was a comedy show, but they didn't know what she was going to ask. And she said they'd play along and then, they would just take whatever would come at them. And she was asked like, well, what, they don't break. How? And she said, yeah, they break. We just
edit that out.
And then I have to ask them again. But she said it's amazing how many people on Twitter still tell her like, you're such an idiot. Why would you like? They don't realize that it's comedy.
They don't get it.
Poor dumb man. They really are.
The best is when she's interviewing the girl about Jesus, and she's like, would you say that he was the first celebrity to get canceled? And she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, no. I need you to look at that camera over there and say Jesus is the first celebrity to get
She does
canceled. And she finally does. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, just like her deadpan delivery. I mean, stuff that, I repeat the joke and I'm like, well, it doesn't sound funny, but it's just the way that she says, I think they're talking about the Bible. And she said, so if someone were to shout this out, would this be the first audiobook? Like, asking in such a serious way.
Yeah.
Or can you talk to the people in time in the gramophone? Or like, I mean,
when she was talking about how they
I remember now.
They were fighting and they fucked up civilization, which set back 5G by a couple of centuries. It's like,
so what I also noticed about the Brits is like they would say things like is it true that there's no moon or whatever, and they wouldn't say like there is a moon. They would say something softer like, as far as I know, there is a moon. Like they would never say, as far as I know, that's not the case. They would never say, no, you're an idiot, it's not the case. They're just like nice little subtleties that the way they speak, they're just so polite. But at the same time, I've also heard that like, I've even read, if someone says like, oh, I think, you need to come over sometime, they're actually saying, no, don't come over. Like they have a very weird like way of talking. They're not literal. They're very tongue-in-cheek, almost like it's the opposite. They're very sarcastic, but it's in almost like anyway, but like I enjoyed it. You know what? The last thing I'll say before I shut the fuck up for this portion is I remember when I watched Black Mirror, I became like fascinated with just British culture because you totally get into it. There's also a show called the End of the World or the fucking End of the World, something like that. That's a good one as well. It takes place in Britain, and so it's a different world, a different mentality, different mindset, and you just have to even get into it. And I even remember the last thing I'll say. I keep saying that, but I remember the first time I sat in the theater to watch the first Harry Potter, and this is back in like 2000, I want to say, or 2001, maybe 2002. Anyway, I sit there and all of a sudden I hear these British accents. And I remember thinking to myself, oh God, are they all going to be British? Is this a British movie? Like, I remember feeling like it was alien to me, but then you just kind of sink into it and enjoy it. And you don't even realize, I mean, yeah, you hear it's British, but it's like, whatever. It's part of the flavor, part of the experience. It's part of what makes it. So once again, Cunk on Earth, whatever. I can't speak like that. But like, it was a great journey into their mind state, their level of humor, and the way they interact. I loved it. Okay.
I'm glad it brought you in and turned you around on it. It just kills me. I think it's so funny.
It really is so funny. She's great. I almost think because I've seen The Daily Show and I've seen so many shows where they do the interviews in that way that
Mhm.
like I'm almost more entertained by the stuff she's doing outside of that. So when she's when she's walking around and talking about the locations, or when she's on location somewhere, and all the stuff she does there is for me almost funnier because it's a little newer in the form of comedy that it is than the interviews, which are still great. Like she's hilarious, but the stuff she does off camera is hilarious.
You'll know when you finish the show why I just did this, because your comment was very interesting. I think Kim knows too, and if not, I'll text you later. All right. Well, you asked me if I'd seen anything, so can I jump into Scream 6?
Yes, absolutely. And
So,
go ahead and spoil, unless Kim doesn't want you to,
No,
because
you
I
can.
won't see it in the theater.
Yeah.
By the time this drops, it'll have been out for a week and a half. People have had their opportunity to see it, so fuck them. But yeah, I think, or spoil at least as much as you're comfortable spoiling. Like, don't worry about holding anything back.
I think that, basically, like, the Scream movies, as everyone knows, are whodunits. Like, they're very procedural. So for me, I'm not even really going to say like the whodunit piece, because it's just really fun.
Yeah.
But what I will just talk about is just one thing I legitimately just thought about, like, as I was getting ready for the show tonight. And it didn't occur to me until I was pondering, the reveal. Okay, you guys have seen Scream movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Ghostface is coming after you, typically what happens is he gets beat up a little bit. Like, you might hit him with a bat or punch him or fight back or whatever, right? Why the hell, when they're revealed, okay, aren't there any bruises or black eye or whatever on their bodies? It's so fake. And I feel like of all the Screams, I feel like this one had the most, come on. Like, and I know, Kevin, you're like the king of that shit. Like, if something is not, like, you were mad about the guy in Annabelle Comes Home being alive after fighting the wolf or whatever, right? So if that bothered you, there are so many things in Scream 6 that are going to bother you. Like, dude, you should be dead right now. Like, how the fuck are you still alive? You're dead, dude. You got stabbed like 20 times. You're dead. Like, how are you alive? Anyway, but like, seriously, like, that happens, okay? So anyway, no. And then the second thing about the Ghostface people is they tend to be really good fighters. Like, how is it that you're just a random ass person who's twisted, but all of a sudden you can like duck and like, sweat, like, you can duck gunshots and shit. You're just a random ass person. Like, no, you should have bruises, and you should literally have bruises, and you should be a good fighter. Okay. But anyway, clearly I'm saying this because the ghost faces that actually show up, because there may be one, there may be two, there may be, I'm not going to spoil it, but there may be multiple. They don't show evidence of their whatevers. Okay. Now, this movie picks up from where 5 left off. So 5, you find out basically that the son of the first killer, Billy Loomis, the daughter of Billy Loomis, is like, she's the main character. She has a little sister played by Jenna Ortega. Okay. So Jenna Ortega and the main star moved to New York. She's going to college. The other 3 from the 5th film are joining her, and basically the killings begin. I forget her name. She's a blonde. Hayden
Panettiere.
Hayden Panettiere shows up, and by the way, I believe that she was in one of the earlier movies.
Yes.
Was it 4 maybe? But Samara Weaving.
Oh, okay.
She is the opening girl, so I don't think that's a big spoiler. She's the opening girl in the movie. She's at a bar, she's like meeting up, with someone on Tinder or whatever, and things go left because, you just shouldn't walk into fucking alleys when, you're meeting with someone on Tinder. Okay. Anyway, so it starts off with a nice killing of Samara Weaving. That's not a big deal. But from there, basically, the Ghostface is after the main character, and her sister, but really the main character. And there's a conspiracy theory because in 5, the main character kills her boyfriend because her boyfriend and his girlfriend or whatever were the ghost faces. But the conspiracy theory is that no, actually she's the killer because she's just like her dad, and she basically made it look like, the other two were the killing all the people. So that's also what she's dealing with, in this movie, like just everyone hating her, and then, being worried about her sister because she just wants to protect her sister. So overall, like I do think it was a good film. Like I think with most horror films, like I don't think you need to see them in the theater per se, but I was satisfied. I don't think Sydney was needed. I think that they I think Sydney could come back at some point, but like this is more about them now. If they end, cool, but I don't know if there's really a conclusive ending to this. Like it can still keep going. But I was satisfied. It wasn't a bad film. I also want to say that I've only seen 1. I barely remember 2. I haven't seen 3 or 4, but I did see 5. And I did see obviously this one. So I would say, and the reviews have been great. I think the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive. Again, this is some bullshit, but not nearly as bad as Morbius. Even though it's supposed to take place in New York, it's not New York. Number 1, there are no alleys in New York. Number 1. So that's number 1. Number
Really?
2, not really, dude. No. No. Chicago, alley.
Just in movies. Okay.
But New York, no. And I know this because if you are out in the town and you take a leak and there's no bathrooms around, go to the alley. New York, there's no alleys. So that's how you find out there's fucking alleys.
It's a fascinating fact that I feel like nobody who, like,
You have
those
to
of
live
us
here
who've never been to New York would never know.
Yeah, you got to walk around because there's so many streets that there's no point in having so many alleys, right? Like everything.
Exactly. The blocks are pretty short.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sucks. Frankly. What was I gonna say? Shit, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, good movie overall. I had a good time. So
without spoiling the mystery, was it solid? Like you didn't?
Oh yeah, dude. Like yeah, you wouldn't know. But but my thing also is like, but yeah, I don't think it's fair because like the person who you thought it was gonna be, like then when you find out it's not the person, and then like, yeah, when you find out it's not the person, and then they're basically, they might meet their end. I'm not going to go there. All I'm going to say is that it's unfair because based on what I said earlier, like there's no way when you find out who's behind it, they should be fucked up. Like they should have bruises, they should have cuts, they should have some sort of damage to themselves because they really put up a fight on this ghost face. So yeah, you just have to gonna strap in, go on for the ride, and enjoy killing. I will say one more thing. So at one point, there's a piece of dialogue. It's pretty disturbing where like one of the ghost face is asking another one, like, how did it feel to like kill someone? And they're like, you know what? It was even better than I thought. It's like first there are these humans, right? As the night goes in, they become animals. You just keep stabbing them, and then they're a piece of meat, And I'm just like, yo, like that's some dark. I can tell by Kim's face, like that's some dark shit. Yeah. Like I was actually worried, like, what if you're actually creating new murderers? Well, because you're making it sound fun, Yeah. And this movie is so meta anyway, because in the Scream universe, they turned Sydney's story into a film series called Stab. So it's like that's partly what this whole movie's about. It's like Stab obsession. People were obsessed with Stab, and man, so that was pretty fucking weird. I'll say that. But the other thing I'll say as well is that as someone who used to hate knife violence, fuck it. I have a personal story from 6th grade where I was playing with a box cutter. I was at a birthday party and I was like retracting it, like extracting it, retracting it, extracting it, retracting it, just sitting there on a couch, whatever, right? 6th grade, okay? Boys, you know where this is going. So they're horsing around next to me and I have it extracted. And then one of the guys actually, his hand goes like on the knife. So it goes right into like here. And then when he goes off, it's spurt. And I'm sitting there with like the knife weapon, like, oh my God. And I felt so horrible. Party was almost ruined. Like the mom had to take him to the fucking take him to the hospital. they're like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. But they took away the knife, and I'm sitting there feeling like an idiot. And then the party continued. But ever since that moment in the 6th grade, I had a knife issue. Like, I did not like seeing anything slicing. Like, I'm like, I'd rather be shot than stabbed. But I have to say this, like, this is the first movie where I see stabbing, and there is stabbing, where I actually was like, I'm back to normal. I'm no longer traumatized. Like, it doesn't trigger me anymore. But that memory of knowing what a box cutter is capable of in the 6th grade, like, I'll never forget. And even the guy who got cut, he even said it was such a clean, like, slice. I didn't feel anything.
Yeah, you don't feel it.
So clean.
Yeah. Okay, that makes me feel better.
Anyway, all right. So I
Well-
hope this is an entertaining podcast, because I'm just saying all shit tonight.
Well, and it's
Wow.
funny because you're talking about like the kind of the realism of the things that happen in there. Have you ever seen Mr. Brooks with Kevin
No.
Costner?
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Kevin Costner is a serial killer, and his whole shtick is that he completely picks people at random. Gender doesn't matter, age doesn't matter, so he has no MO, just that he likes to kill people.
Hmm.
And he does it with a gun. Like in one scene, he's got, a big Ziploc bag all the way around his hand, around the gun. So he shoots the person. All of the, gunshot residue, everything stays within the bag. The casing comes out, stays within the bag, leaves no evidence behind.
Did the bullet not blow the bag open?
Well, yeah, of course it does at the end, but all of
Okay.
the evidence that you would be worried about. So when you shoot somebody, gunpowder residue gets all over you from
Kind of
behind, and a shell casing can launches out of the top of a pistol and falls. If you can't find it, then you're leaving that behind. And when people load their guns, generally speaking, you're not wearing gloves before you load it. So every single bullet that you load into your gun has your thumbprint on it, right? Like that's the way it goes. So there's like leaving evidence behind in this case would be bad for you if you're a serial killer. But like it's so grounded that it is super creepy, and it's Kevin Costner, right? Like dude can act. So it's super creepy. It just makes me think of that. Like when you set something that close to real world, it's a little crazy. You're right that I'm just thinking of the first one. Like they should have been beat to shit. Like when they took that mask off, like Skeet should have looked like he got just mauled by a tiger, and they never did.
No, just fresh, pretty faces.
And on the one hand, from the storytelling standpoint, they can't be because it gives away the mystery.
Correct.
So I think a better storyteller would find a way to
Explain for that.
injure, either explain it away or just injure a bunch of people as it goes, so you can't tell. Like, if 3 people are injured, and then instead you're looking at, well, these 3 people are hurt. It must be one of these 3 people, and kind of force the story that way too. But like instead, you've kind of created. With Ghostface, you've created this thing that's like Jason or Michael Myers, where they feel supernatural, and a lot of the things they do in these movies feel supernatural because they just kind of appear out of nowhere, or they just kind of disappear when they shouldn't be able to, and they're not showing bruises and stuff. But then at the end reveal of all of them, it's just a normal person. It's just not a normal person, a total fucking psycho, but a human being.
Yeah. No, I actually wonder if like it's pretty brilliant that I never even thought of that until the fucking 6th movie. So I wonder if like we made history tonight, but like has anyone else
by ratting them out?
Yeah, like dude, like they should be to shit. They really should.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that there.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, I don't. It almost seems to me like I have to watch the first one, but I feel like it came up in that one because I thought one of the bad guys got stabbed in the leg. And it may not be that maybe that just doesn't happen until the end when they've already revealed themselves. Because I remember at the end of the first one, they stab each other.
Lillard, I'm getting woozy, man. Like that was just like one of the best like lines ever.
Yeah.
Probably improvised too.
Probably. He's so great.
Yeah.
He is completely underappreciated. I think for as stupid as it was, if you ever watched the live action Scooby-Doo,
he's good in that.
He plays Shaggy.
Yeah.
And he would go out and he would scream at the top of his lungs until his voice was raw so that he could get Shaggy's voice right, which is amazing. And it's also hilarious because Shaggy was originally voiced by Casey Kasem, and Casey Kasem would never do that. Like his voice was solid gold. He'd be like, no, I'm not hurting. I'm not hurting this, you know. But yeah, that's exactly what he did to get the voice right. He would go out and scream until his voice was raw, so that he could get all the little weird cracks and shit that
I did a voice acting class actually with a guy named Michael Bell. He's a pretty big deal in the 80s and does video games up too. But I think what kind of scared me away, although I still probably do it, but like was man, like sore throats are just part of your life. Like I remember after each class, it hurt. And I'm like, I don't know if I could do this for a living because you shred your voice.
People forget that it's a muscle. It's a muscle, and if you don't work it out, if you don't do the things you need to do, and you don't care for it, like for as stupid as it is, hot tea with lemon and honey is pure gold. Like you need that shit daily. You have to take care of it in every way. You don't go outside when it's cold. You don't smoke. You don't do the things that will damage your voice. You especially if you're getting to the point where you're successful. You treat it like it's your whatever it is that that's your instrument, right? Like if you were a concert violinist, you baby that violin, because you spent all that money on it. So it's the same idea.
Man, well, definitely. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I hate jumping late and then have to jump out early, but mom duties, single mom duties.
It's actually good timing.
It's perfect timing.
I was going to say we're going to go in to Picard, which is going to bore you to death. So this is actually perfect, man.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you guys tonight. Thanks for watching Cunk. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm the only one that hasn't finished it out of the three of us, so I'm excited to finish that in the next couple of days. So I'm loving it. It's awesome.
Good. It makes me so happy. Okay. Good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night. So that was my first, guest star.
Jump in, jump out. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, then Picard.
Dude.
We haven't talked about it at all. So we've got 4, which is great because I feel like these 4 episodes are one chunk of story.
Yes.
There's a backstory that we're going to see more of as we go with Rafi and Worf.
Oh, yes.
But this, while not an entirely contained story, is a solid chapter of the overall story.
Yes.
So just the gist of it really quick is that Picard gets an SOS kind of message from Beverly Crusher, who he hasn't seen in 20 years or more, 30 years. He gets Riker on board with going and finding out what the fuck's going on. In the process of that, they jump on a ship with a very jerky captain, and his number 1 is 7 of 9. They convince her to hijack the ship while he's sleeping, take them somewhere they're not supposed to go. Hijinks ensue. The bad shit goes down, and by the end of the 4th episode, they kind of escape by the skin of their teeth, right? This season so far has a lot of parallels to The Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
But in the best ways. I was reading an article the other day on how many times they've tried to since then tried to kind of ride that wave and do things similar to that, and it never works. And in this one, it really, really does. And I think and on the one hand, I'm sort of glad it's just you and I, because we have a perspective that I think some other folks don't have, in that we saw that panel in New York before the season, right? So we've seen the whole crew sit down and talk about the season a little bit, and a little bit of who they are and how they are. And I think it helps too that you've seen their individual personalities now in a way that you probably hadn't before. Because my first thing after I watched the first episode, there's a moment when Picard and Riker are on the bridge, and just the way they interact feels more like Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes than it ever felt like Picard and Riker. And I think that that there's some magic there. I think leaning into who the actors are here in this potentially last season we'll ever see of the Next Generation crew, really works. Like there's a chemistry between these people, this whole crew, that most shows don't have, and it really works.
Yeah, no. So I'm going to be a little random and say that, even though Wrath of Khan is like my favorite score, like one of the things about this show is just the use of music. So I have always, always, always loved the score, the Goldsmith score from First Contact. So the fact that this is the score that they chose to end, like every time the show ends, it's that score. It was just like, I'll say it like that. I love music so much that I can be brought to tears by how much I love a song. It's just beautiful. And that's the one. Like that, of all the Star Trek scores, actually, it's that one. And I don't know what it is, but it just does it to me. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, you talk about the Wrath of Khan. So even that like alert kind of like panel straight out of that movie. Okay, that's number two. Number three, like, yes, it's so cool to see like Riker and Picard just interact so well as old friends. It feels very real. It feels like they're super grateful to just be together again, as actors as well as characters in the show. And then it's also really cool to see the dynamic between the two, because Riker has always been like kind of his second in command, but you see some kind of like dynamic shifts happening like as the episodes go on as to who's in charge. Like it's pretty crazy, but also I think very realistic in life. All Good Things, I think, is the name of the final episode of the Next Generation. So the fact that we're actually getting, and that was a great ending, because it really was, because you saw him walk in, play cards with the rest of the crew, and that was the end. But now we're getting like another epilogue. Crazy. And then I also saw, even on Facebook, someone said, I do not understand the quantum leap between seasons 1 and 2 and this season. Like, what happened? Like, I'm happy about it, but I'm just kind of like, what happened? Like, how did it go from a somewhat mediocre show that is finding its footing to like this full on like cinematic experience, like where it's the whole you know what? I feel like they talk about, when Riker grew the beard in season 3 of TNG, that's when like the show got good, right? When Cisco, I know you didn't, anyways, when Cisco grew the beard, the goatee, and shaved his head, that's when DS9 got good. And I feel like this season is when like, Picard grew the beard, because now all of a sudden the show feels amazing. And 7 of 9 is like so commanding. I hope we do get a show where she's a captain. I want a prequel on the Stargazer where it's young Picard and Jack Crusher. That fucking shit needs to happen. Man, so I'm gonna let you hand the mic back to you, because you're really good at explaining like the plot shit. So I just had to like get my first thoughts out there, but I've been so enthusiastic about this fucking show. All right, go.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's got so many great moments, and at this point, 4 episodes in, we'll probably give a little bit away, and I'm not too worried about that. I think the mysteries that there aren't necessarily huge shocks as they come up. We find out at the end of the first episode that when they get to Beverly, it turns out she's with somebody, and it's her son, and it's not Will Wheaton. Bummer. I'm not a Will Wheaton fan myself. Although I've come to like him more recently than ever before, but I was never really a huge fan of his. But or rather, I was when I was a kid. I liked him. He did. After that, but he did not young Indiana Jones. That was River Phoenix. Young Harry Houdini. He did a young Harry Houdini show, I think. But anyways, and I liked him in that. I liked him in Stand By Me. But for a little bit there, I felt like he was a little too big for his britches. Like he liked himself a lot, and it drove me crazy. And it doesn't bother me as much anymore. But I still kind of hold on to that rage because I'm a crazy person. But he is notably absent from this one so far. Now, the one thing you'll notice if you ever hear them talk about him, the rest of the cast talk about him, they fucking loved him on that show.
Okay, cool.
They absolutely loved. As a matter of fact, I've talked about Rosenbaum's podcast before, Michael Rosenbaum. He had Jonathan Frakes on recently, and that is an excellent interview. It's a lot of fun to listen to. I think Frakes is a great guest. He's got a lot of good stories. He's a very interesting guy. He's been through some shit. And so, but anyways, so we have a son. We have a Beverly with a son. We ultimately find out that it's Picard's son, giving us that real Wrath of Khan feel, right? Where you find out this kid is Kirk's son. Mm-hmm. There's some really, in episodes 2 and 3, and even in 4, some really genuine moments between Riker and Picard, and actually Riker and Jack, where Riker in season 2, I think we find out, lost his son.
I was actually wondering about that. Like, I have to go. I don't remember that. Like, do you know what happened?
He got sick. That's all I know. He got sick because Riker and Troy. So there's an episode early in one of the early seasons. I think it was season 2, but it might have been season 1, where they go visit. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's season 1. Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure it's season 1. They go visit Riker and Troy on whatever planet they're living on.
Right.
And they only have their daughter, and their son has passed away, not necessarily recently, but not super long either. And yeah, he was sick, and they did everything they could. That's why I think that's why they moved to the planet they moved to. And ultimately, no matter what they did, they couldn't save him. And so that is a pain that Riker's always held on to. And as a matter of fact, that's why he's so open to joining Picard on this little quest, is because he needs to get away. Like he says, at one point in the episodes that, Deanna's an empath. So all the pain that he's feeling, even if she's not feeling that same pain, she's feeling his too. And so he's carrying all the guilt of not being able to save his son, and then, not being able to make her feel any better because he doesn't feel better. And she feels that, and so he kind of runs away. So it's really interesting to hear him talk to Picard about, never let a moment go. You have this opportunity. He has a very similar conversation with Jack, where he's like, look, I lost my son. I did not have this time. And that leads to a moment that I don't think I want to give away in season 4. But there's a reason that Jack has stayed away from Picard for as long as he has.
That moment was crazy.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh shit. There's a lot of explanation there without any words. And so that was a really cool, but kind of hard to take moment. And then you have,
I also want to say that, like, Picard has always been such like an admirable person, right? And so it's weird seeing Picard, like, quote unquote, like, mess up. And in that scene, like, he not only messed up, but like messed up royally, but also believably, because that's who he's always been. In season 2, I feel like that was what Q was trying to tell him the whole time. Like, Q, like, it was great. Just jumping back for a second, like, Q, I loved how, as godlike as Q was, he still had his favorites, and he's like, I want to help my favorite one more time before I die. So I want you, my favorite Picard, mon capitaine, to learn to open up, forgive yourself, so that way you can actually experience love again. That's what I want for you, okay? Because he's been so closed off and so independent and so I don't need family, he's just all about his career. So that's like, yeah, like that's been his major flaw. And it's crazy that's it's because in every other respect, Picard is the shit. Like he is kind of a perfect dude, but don't think I'm not like paying attention, like as a human, like because you already know, like that's definitely I identify with Picard in that way. Like I like just doing me, but yeah, man, what are you missing? So anyway,
and then in that moment, that reveal moment too, it's like what you would say in that situation if you were him. Even if it wasn't true, you would say it in that situation just because of what the situation is. And I can't explain it too much without giving it away. And I kind of like, for as much as I'm okay with spoilers, I don't want to give this one away.
Yeah,
because I think that one holds some emotional impact. So you've got to,
yes.
Okay. But man, it's good. You've got a mystery involved. There's a saboteur on board. You have this captain of the Titan who is a total D-bag.
I gotta say though, and I love this shit. After you get what his deal is, I'm coming around to him too. He's like, dude, you hate him in episode 1. Yeah, hated that guy because for no reason. You are a total disrespectful dick. But when you finally find out like what he's holding, I'm like, okay,
yeah, big time. Yeah, when he had that reveal, like as soon as he starts explaining it, if you followed Trek before, you know exactly the problem, and you know exactly why he is the way he is. Just period. And it's good, man. It's so good. And I think just how good these first 4 episodes are made me excited for the rest, because we still haven't seen Geordi. We'll get more Worf. We still haven't seen Lore. We haven't seen who was teased. We haven't seen Moriarty, who was teased in the trailer.
Okay.
That we saw. So I mean, there's a lot to happen here at the end of this run, and that we haven't even got to.
So what do you think Vadic's deal is?
I don't know. I don't know, because like, is she a shapeshifter?
I was trying to figure that out too,
because she literally like cut off her hand to use that device.
Yeah,
and then it reattached. So, I mean, I don't know. And she comes from good stock, man. Her dad was, Christopher Plummer. That dude could act. So
awful Krang.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, he was a Klingon in the movies. So I don't know. I don't know who she is or what she is just yet, or how she got such a fucking bomb ass ship. And I love the way they kind of knock her out of commission to get away.
Oh, Riker again.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, that little noise, like when her ship shows up, is to me a callback to like, I think that was the noise that the V'ger made in the first. So I like that. Oh my god, Geordi's daughter is killing it as far as I'm concerned.
She's great, but that one's not his real life daughter.
Oh, my bad.
But
okay,
his real daughter, Micah Burton, will be an engineer. So when you see him talking to his daughter in the engineering outfit, that's his real life daughter.
Got it. Okay.
So this one, I forget her name, but she's great. She's fantastic. She has a couple of really, really great moments in there. I love how the interaction between Seven of Nine and Captain Shaw comes around by the end of it.
Yeah,
like, they definitely find a mutual respect for each other that they didn't have in the beginning. He's a bastard. Like, he fucking sucks. Like, when that show starts, he's not anybody that anybody really wants to work with.
Yeah.
They're like, we need to go to this place. And he's like, no, that's not my mission. And you guys are jackasses, so I'm not going to do it.
And you said it even nicer than he said it. I think he's just like, no. Like, he literally is just like, no.
Well, because remember, they come to his
dinner.
to dinner in his room, And I mean, he is a fucking dick. Like
Yes.
they're like, I brought you this wine, and he's like, great, yeah, I'm more partial to fucking scotch or whatever, and drinks
he's
that right in
already
front of him.
eating.
Yeah, he's already eating when they get there. Shoos him out before they can really eat. Like, I mean, he's a dick in that first
your
episode.
accommodations, like there's like he gives him like the wackest rooms, like a bunk bed with no covers. It was the best we could do at short notice. And I love how Picard's like, this is humiliating or whatever. It was just great.
It's fantastic.
Oh my God.
And I'm excited, for what it is. The Rafi Worf storyline isn't particularly interesting yet. Like, I'm still waiting for that to really get there. It definitely ties in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But fuck, man, when Michael Dorn shows up,
thank you.
He's so good. He's so good.
I was badass.
And having seen him at as many conventions as I've seen, and seen Michael Dorn, like, that dude is so classy. And to take just a little bit of that rage out of Worf and throw in that classiness that he had. The line where he's like, "You seem mad, blah 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 blah. Chamomile tea," and you're just like, "Oh shit!" Like, it's so funny. And like, he's fantastic. He's another one where if you watch his physical transformation from the first episode of Next Generation till now, like, they figured out his makeup. Like, he almost quit the whole thing in the beginning because the makeup was so hard for him in the first season, and they didn't do a good job with it. It didn't feel good on his face. Like, everything was wrong with it. And it was like hours of application time. And so I think the second season, they came up with something where it was more of a single piece. So the prosthetics took less time to put on. And he kind of swore it off. And then somebody at Deep Space Nine talked him into doing it again. So, I mean, he's been Worf for a long time.
Yeah.
But it looks good in this.
And I like the fact that even I think the whole changeling thing is very Deep Space Nine connected. I like that. So I want to find out like what that whole deal is.
And when they're explaining the changeling, he hands her a pad and it's Odo's picture on there.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Yeah, because they can't. You can't have Odo back because Rene Auberjonois died. So it was a neat little nod to him in what these characters are, because, like I said, that they can't have him back. So that was pretty cool.
So yeah, we're almost halfway there. Living on a prayer. Sorry, I had to. But yeah, no, this is a strong show, and I'll be sad when it's over. But they definitely brought it, and I like Jack too. I think
good.
It's hard to like care about somebody new, but he actually, like, he's acting well. He has his own identity, and even as a character, oh my God, thank you for reminding me. So even in my job, like, I always wanted like a Starfleet type job where it's like together we're better. Like, we can actually all rely on each other. We're a fucking team. We can't do it alone. And man, I gotta tell you, like, I needed to see this because, like, yeah, even in my own job on Monday, like, we're gonna do we're not saving lives, but it's still pretty important shit. And it's a coalition. We're dealing with technology, and it's like, I play my part, you play your part, and we just run this. And what they did, how they got out of their situation in episode 4, it was looking pretty dire. Like, it was looking pretty dire.
Yeah.
And Riker said some mean shit to Picard, like, at the end of episode 3, but Picard kind of had it coming. but like, it was looking pretty dire. But through Jack played a key role. Jack and everyone did. Everyone,
Yep.
Shaw, Seven, everyone. If anybody had been off their marks, they'd be dead.
They're all dead. Yep.
So I love, and that to me is Trek. Like, that to me is what it's about.
For sure. Yeah, it's so good. I'm already excited for the next episode. It's in its own way, it's almost, it's so hard because it does come out once a week, right? Instead of, you're not watching it all. You don't have the opportunity to watch it as fast as you want, so you have to wait. But I think that's beneficial. We're seeing that with The Last of Us. I think shows right now, if you're making a show where there's real drama, where there's real things that need to be thought about and considered, they benefit so much more by being weekly than they do coming out all at once. Like a comedy, sure, all at once. A lighter drama, yeah, all at once is fine. But the really good stuff, I think, should always be episodic and weekly. So, you have anything else for Picard besides ready for the next episode?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, in that case, speaking of The Last of Us, we'll jump into that. We're at the penultimate episode, episode 8. I forget the name of the episode, but that's okay. This is, I think I said it last week's episode. People were not ready for what this episode and what the finale are about to bring, and I remember just our chat, like our text chain, and there were a few like holy shits in there, and the biggest thing that came out of it too is like, for me, this sealed Bella Ramsey's awards. She's gonna run rampant through the award show. She was fucking phenomenal in this episode. But having just watched this again today, so that I've watched, just like all the other episodes, I've watched them 3 times because of the way that I watch them. I watch them the night they come out because I can't wait. I watch one with my kids because they want to see it, and then when my wife's ready, we watch it, which is usually Saturday because she works during the week. And so, I've seen each episode 3 times.
Nice.
And this one, number one, David, because my son literally played this part of the game today. So David doesn't look exactly the same, but he looks close enough. I mean, you can't make him look exactly as a video game, but he sounds like him. The kind of quiet menace is there, like the creep factor is there. Like, this dude did an awesome job. Scott Shepard, I think, is his name. I don't know what else he's done, but in this, he was really good. We had I think a wonderfully understated performance by Troy Baker, who was the original Joel, having the opportunity to show up on the show in a way, because he's even said in interviews, he's like, I would have been a clicker. He's like, you wouldn't even had to know it was me. He's like, if I could just be involved. But Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the show, him and Troy are very tight. So having the opportunity to get him in there in some other way, I think really helped. But he was really good. Like, I've followed him for a long time, and he's actually a very verbose guy. Like, he's very energetic and likes to talk, and he uses big words. He's a really smart guy. And to see him play James, who's very not quite meek, maybe isn't the word, but like, he's worn out, he's tired, he's been through some shit, and he's very soft spoken and all this. I thought was a great thing. And then for Joel to be the badass that Joel can be in this episode, even though he's kind of coming off his deathbed, basically, you got some awesome moments in this. So what did you think of the episode?
Amazing episode. First of all, I liked Troy Baker's role. He actually reminded me, this might be random, but he reminded me a bit of Christian Bale, actually, like as far as like his whole vibe. So it was good to see him play a pretty solid second in command. David, I mean, he represents like your worst nightmare as far as like who would end up in charge. Cults are real, and I think he was trying to start a cult. And when you find out, like, I mean, they totally hinted at it pretty much from the jump, but it was still crazy. I actually I think it's called Harry Carrier, not Harry Carrier. There's some, I think that if you eat human flesh, there's a disease you can get that actually makes you crazy. Maybe I don't know. I think there's something like it's not good. So anyway, or maybe, I don't know. I think there's something you can get, like a brain disorder. But anyway, man, I just, it was dark. Like I can't, I mean, when he smacks like the daughter of the person who Joel killed in self-defense, like that was like your first like, okay, this dude is not good, you know. Then
Yeah.
it's like when, you know, they bring in the meat, whatever, and then I think the mother of the girl is like, what is it? You know, oh, it's just pork or whatever, like whatever he
Yeah.
said, or deer.
Yeah. Deer
You know,
or elk or something like that.
the fact that she even had to ask, it already told you, you know. And then when they're eating, at one point you see someone like pull something out of their mouth, which is totally out of Midsummer. I guess when you eat humans, like you're gonna bite into a tooth or something. I don't know, but it's fucking gross.
Well, what's
Um,
interesting too, I was thinking about it today, and the timing of that particular meal and when it comes, there's a good chance they're eating that girl's dad.
oh, totally, 100%,
Yeah. So
100%.
like there's some creepy shit there. And I like that later on he says only 3 people know. Well, you know that James is one of them. He's one of them. And the dude bringing in the bucket of food is the other one, I think,
Yeah.
that knows.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody else suspects, but what can they do? And then to make it creepier, the way they're just like eating the food, like because they're not eating enough, so they're just eating it up because they need it.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. Like it's some brutal shit right there.
I liked the way Ellie was so smart about getting the penicillin, like the whole, that whole interaction in the beginning. You know, I think David, you know, saw something in her, which is true. He's smart, but like the way Ellie fought back. But then also, okay, one thing I knew you were gonna love, because you're all about this life too. Like in the game, apparently, like Joel actually like makes it inside towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this show, no, dude, it was like Ellie saved herself. Like Ellie completely saved herself. And that to me was just beyond, like, people need to see that. Like, I think I'll just say it. Like, girls need to see that. Women need to see that. Like, to see that, like, I don't need to be saved all the time. Like, she had to be quick with her wits. You know, everything that she did was like, whoa, like,
Well,
this.
and to be fair, in the game, while Joel does show up, everything still happens the same.
Yeah.
She kills David with a machete instead of a butcher knife, but she kills him. It's just he gets in there and holds her in the exact same way.
Yeah.
It's just inside the building instead of outside. But I think there's a moment when she finishes that killing and staggers outside. When she's going outside, she's convinced she's going outside completely alone.
Yeah.
Like when she leaves this place, she doesn't have anybody.
Yeah.
As far as she knows, Joel is dead, you know, all of that. So the moment that he, you know, embraces her and baby girl, and they have their eye contact moment, and she can finally like let loose. I think that extra time in between will mess her up a lot too. Just and that's only like 2 minutes, right? Like a minute from when she walks out to when he finds her. But I think, you know, a lot is going on in your head in that short amount of time.
You know, so you're right though. Joel had some straight up Batman moments in this episode, because like I love how like she gave him, I think she gave him the knife, and she's like, if you hear anybody, just, and he just rolls out. But all that stuff was thank God for the penicillin. Like without the penicillin, he would have been fucked.
Yeah.
And then I also love the fact that, like, again, Joel, when he killed those dudes, like he didn't do it out of like rage. He did it because he can't leave anybody behind, because that's what happened. When you leave people behind, you're just like inviting more people to come after you. So, but it was just so ruthless that when he's like, if you tell me like where it is on the map, like I won't kill you, you know. Then he tells them, tell the truth, and then he's like, I believe you.
Yeah, I believe him, and then fucking smashes his head.
That was just like, and like, what'd you do? Like, why'd you do that? Like, he told you the truth, and he's just whatever.
And then he's like, yeah, I believed him.
Yeah, that's right. I believed him. So like,
yeah.
I got what I needed.
But I love how, and I saw this somewhere and I didn't think about it, but how exhausted he is. You still see it, because the first time he punches the guy, he falls into him. Like he punches him and he can barely stand himself back up. And then, you know, he's got the energy, he stabs the dude in the knee, and then he hands him the knife and he's kind of grabbing it. But when he stabs the guy again, he kind of falls forward. Like it's everything he has is in that moment. And then he gets up and then he bashes the dude's brains in with the pipe, and he's wrecked. I mean, if he got to a position where it was him against David, he would not have won.
Yeah.
And that scene is awesome. There's a lot of dialogue in the fire.
Yes.
That David has that's not in the game. Where it's like, you don't know how good I am, blah blah blah. And in the game, the subtext of him like sexually wanting her in a very obviously disturbing way is more subtle and nuanced. And even Nolan North, who played David, said, he added some of that in his voice, but like even he didn't really feel like that's quite where it was going. And this one leaned into it all the way. Like he, as a matter of fact, when she finally gets a hold of that butcher knife, he's reaching down to undo his belt. Like there's no question about what this guy is about to do. And so he played that character so well, and she had her scenes, and it's just good, quick, painful television. Like it.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's the most disturbing episode, just because you're dealing with cannibalism, you're dealing with like basically it's rapey shit.
Of a kid.
Yeah,
I mean, she's a kid.
Yeah, that's right. And violence. I mean, really graphic violence. Because she has to, like like the butcher knife in the neck for Troy's character. And I love how inside the show, whatever, he's actually like happy. Like he's like, yeah, I got a cool death. He was like, it's gotta be weird though. I don't know how I feel about seeing myself die on camera. Like I don't know.
It'd be weird, right?
Very weird. But no, this was a very powerful episode. I think everyone was talking about the Emmys. The way, I mean, she just, no pun intended, she killed it. She
really did. And
there's
so much emotion in the scene where she breaks his finger, which is straight out of the game. That one's exactly like the game. The line, Ellie, tell him the girl that broke your, Ellie is the girl that broke your fucking finger, and she screams. That's all of that emotion is just like the game. Comes out exactly like that. But she does an amazing job. Like the rage she has in that scene is fucking awesome. And then when she has to kill him and she's just going at it, kind of like we talked about on Cunk on Earth, like that scene went on a little too long. Like
it was cathartic though. I'm sorry.
And it was, and that's what I'm saying. Like he was dead and she was still doing it because she was absolutely blinded by rage. Because you can tell when he dies. Like if you listen, there's a couple of like grunts and then nothing, and she's still just wailing away. And you just know, and her face, like everything she does in that moment is insanely intense. Like she is so good. That I just like when I was done watching that, I was like, this, just give her the awards. Just we don't need to make it that far. Whatever award, Golden Globe, Emmy, all of those, just send them to her now.
She's the new Zendaya, and it's funny because Zendaya won it twice in a row for Euphoria on HBO, and now Bella's going to get it for this. And I gotta say really quick, like when Joel finds her again outside, I think she was still like, she was so blinded by rage at first, like she didn't even realize it was fucking Joel.
Yep.
Like, it's me, because she's still amped.
She's ready to fight.
Yeah.
Good thing she didn't have the butcher knife anymore.
Right.
But yeah, and I love the subtle thing too. Like at this point, Joel is dead. Like he's always going to be Joel.
Yeah.
But like he finds her backpack in that, and he brings it with him. So he knows when he finds her, he's going to give her backpack back. She's going to have her stuff. He calls her baby girl. It's the first time he said that since the first episode when he was talking about his daughter. And so there's a lot of little things happening here that kind of solidify or finalize this relationship now. And knowing that, I still, like I said last week, people are not, that don't know, that they haven't played the game, that don't know what's coming, are not quite prepared for the emotions that you're going to have by the end of this thing. There's a
So
lot
I
of
know
good
she
stuff
meets her
coming.
mom, right? So that's going to be another.
Well, she's not going to meet her mom. It's a flashback. Her mom is
Oh,
dead,
okay.
but her mom is played by Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game. Because they show her pregnant in one of the teasers. So she's pregnant with Ellie. Ellie's never known her mom. And Marlene knew her mom. I don't know if that's been said on the show or not, but it is said in the game. That could change for the game, but it sounded like she's known Ellie for most of her life, one way or the other. In the first part, because she talks to her, she's like, "Oh, I put you in that Fedra school." She's like, "Blah blah blah." Right.
I'm terrible at these things. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that goes way back to the first episode.
Okay.
But that'll be interesting. Marlene should be back for the final episode. But yeah, just the emotion that's going to come out of the end of this show, I just cannot wait to see people talk about, because it's real. It's going to be heavy. And I'm super excited for it. I'm excited to see what they do. It's going to go fast. It's funny because I was always not quite sure that after the winter scene, all this stuff that happens in this episode, and even most of the episode before, in my brain, there was so much more that happened after that I wasn't sure that one episode was enough. But watching my son play it today, he finished the winter episode, and then he just kind of jammed through the end of the game. I was like, oh, there's actually a lot less than I thought there was. So an hour or whatever it is for this last episode should be just fine. I think they're going to cover everything. I was talking to my friend Lily on Twitter, and she likes the show. She's a big fan of the show, big fan of everybody in it. But she's actually one of the few people I know that in her own way is kind of dissenting against the show also, because there's a distinct lack of the infected in this show. Okay. So while both the game and the show are really about the people and things they're going through, there's such a huge part of the game that other than, once we've had the moment that essentially kills Sam, right, that he gets infected, we really haven't even seen any. In the game, when Ellie meets David, there's a huge chunk of time where Ellie and David have to defend themselves against a bunch of clickers and a bunch of
in that house
infected.
Wow.
Yeah, so in the house they run into a warehouse, and then they fight them off, and it's this huge thing. They fight a ton of them off until they're gone, and none of that happens. And on the one hand, it would have been nice because it would build just a little more trust before that reveal of, oh, I basically know exactly who you are. But they did a good job with it. But like, I can see where people have the complaint that, there's no infected in the show compared to the game. Like, where's the stakes in that regard? Because they've managed to avoid them so well when it's this worldwide pandemic that happened, right? So like I said, I get the complaint. It doesn't bother me because it's always been about Joel and Ellie and their story. I don't need them to fight a bunch of infected to see their story. That the people that they're interacting with are far worse than the infected in most cases. We'll see if they come up against any in the last episode. In the game, they for sure do. But we'll see.
Speaking of the finale, I know that you were thinking about having appearance by one of the 1.0ers potentially.
Yeah. When I talked to him before, he was totally down. I haven't talked to him a little bit, and this will be next week, so I'll double check with him going into the week because, like I said, he's the perfect guy to have on to talk about it because he is the only person I know that's probably played the game more than I have. And so his level of knowledge is definitely there, and will be really cool to have, especially if we have you and then maybe at least one other person that's never played the game. I think those are two interesting perspectives to have. Yeah. And then, we'll be able to go over the show in its entirety kind of too, and what got us to episode 9. But I'm super stoked for it. I'm crazy excited for it. And it's weird because usually when I watch things, like I avoid spoilers in every possible way. And it's so weird to watch a show where, generally speaking, I know everything that's going to happen. And it, for the most part, plays out exactly like it did. And I'm still 100% into it.
Nice.
So it's pretty wild. But it is like I said earlier, like this game is so cinematic anyways, and it's so linear that it's the perfect thing to turn into a TV show, something like Assassin's Creed, God of War, all these things that have failed before. Tomb Raider didn't necessarily fail, but it wasn't. People don't consider it a great video game adaptation. I actually thought at least the first Angelina Jolie one was fine. I like the one with Alicia Vikander, whatever her name is, because she was so. That one looked so much like the recent games that it was wild. There are flaws there that Uncharted didn't necessarily nail the game. Like if you look at it just as an adventure movie, I think it's better to look at it that way than an Uncharted game, even though the characters are there. But this, like I said, is so linear. The characters are so well defined. You know exactly what you're doing. There's no, and I think what Neil Druckmann said that we're going to do is we are telling the story that we have already told, and that is it. He's like, we're not doing The Last of Us 1.5. We're not doing prequels. We're not doing anything. Is like, if it wasn't content that we already had and telling that same story, then we're not going to do it. I think the Bill episode's kind of an outlier in that, the Bill and Frank episode, but Bill and Frank were in the game. Bill and Frank were a couple in the game. The way their story ends is different in the game, but that's fine because it doesn't affect the outcome.
So that's where the awards are going to come in. That episode's going to win an award, and Ellie's going to win an award. Hell, maybe even Joel will. Maybe, but
I kind of don't think he will. I think this was so much, very quickly. So much became her show. Like she's a little fucking scene stealer. Like she just eats up the time. And Joel, Pedro's, every version of Joel, but Pedro's version of Joel is so like understated. Like he's tired. He's beat. Like he's been through the shit, and he does a great job with it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in this last episode. There's going to be a lot of Joel moments in this last one where you get to see his emotion too. So we'll see what comes out of that. But
his episode was really kin. That was his episode. Like, that was his episode. But either way, this is fantastic television.
Yep, I'm stoked. It's tomorrow night, man. For us, it's tomorrow night.
And it's going up against the Oscars, which is crazy.
And I don't even care. I'm like, fuck the Oscars. I'll read about it tomorrow morning on the Hollywood Reporter. Exactly. I'll watch The Last of Us the second it's on.
If Everything Everywhere All at Once wins Best Picture, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy for everyone.
Yeah. Side note on that, it's the most awarded movie of all time.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. And I love that it's an Asian-led film. Like it's and just in general, like it's such a different film.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to recommend to people. I'm like, it's weird. Like if you can't grasp the weird, you're going to hate it.
Correct.
Like I can see how people could not like this film. I loved it, but I get it.
Exactly. Yeah. I read somewhere it said there's probably, it's not a perfect correlation, but the older you are, the less you're probably going to like it. Like it's pretty young. Yeah. It's silly, but it's not silly because there's some depth to it, but there's a lot of silliness moment. It's like, exactly. Jobu Tupaki, you know, like anyways. But yeah, man, I think this I feel like almost every time we do a show, everyone feels different. This one feels different. Like it's just like kind of pop in, pop out. It's actually pretty long. We started pretty much on time. Like,
Well, and did clocks jump forward? Is it actually only 2:02?
It is only 2:02, but we're ending right when the clocks jump forward. Yeah. So for those listening, we just totally crossed the time zone change.
We time traveled right here.
Yes, we jumped ahead an hour. Magic.
Yeah, so I think with that, we will say thank you for watching. If you're listening to the audio, thank you for listening. We had a lot of great stuff this week. We're super excited for next week, especially if we get Alex to show up. I think that'll be a neat little, kind of coda on the end of The Last of Us. But as always, thank you to all the people that are sharing for us. I think that's awesome. If you're not one of them, be cool. Be one of them. Share like the cool people. We're seeing the numbers just go up a little bit every week. It's really cool. So have a great week. And talk to you all next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
It's interesting. Like the show is just a whole allegory for just war in general, right? And how cyclical and shitty the whole process is.
War and for me, it's like it's xenophobia. It's like there's racism there. There's classism there.
Yep.
There's so much there, and just character development. And arcs and decisions. Like I'll just jump right into it. So like one of the things that so this is going to go into even my discussion on Cunk. So one of the things that I know, we all watch TV or movies for different reasons. Okay. I like it because I like to actually, again, put myself in the situation, ask myself what I would do in that situation, and learn lessons. Okay. So for me, I think the moment that hooked me as far as Attack on Titan is, do you remember in season 1 where they're on the expedition and the female Titans chasing the squad? Levi's squad is protecting Aaron. Mm-hmm. And Aaron's like, do I change? And because like the orders are not to change, to let the squad handle it. And Aaron's like, these motherfuckers are gonna get killed, so I should probably change. And if he asks Levi, and Levi straight up is like, just trust your fucking gut, dude. It's your decision.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to me because you see what happened, man. Like they all fucking died. And Aaron's like, shit, like he just made the wrong call. Like Aaron should have done it. But, and Levi, it's just, that was just so real. But I still feel like Levi made the right call. But to say, this is your call, dude. Like it's on you, and also, it also taught me, this is back when I was like in my old job, control the controls. Like I trust myself. Like if at the end of the day I think that my homeboys or whoever's supposed to handle it isn't going to handle it, I'm doing it. I'm sorry, and I learned that lesson from that episode, and just even moments in life. I'm sorry, I'm just talking so damn much. But anyway, you talked about the show and war and themes, but you're bringing up all these memories. I have learned so much from this show. So now I'm going to stop talking a little bit more and let you jump in, because it just, one more thing, gratitude. And I'm so happy and grateful that you actually gave the show a chance. I really am. So I just want you to know that, like, seriously, it means the fucking world to me. Okay.
Yeah. I just dig it. I think it's so cool. And it starts off, the way that starts off for a long time, like you get to know these characters, so what the story is. They're the good guys, the Titans are the bad guys, and everything's black and white, cut and dry, right? Like it opens up, the kid's mom gets eaten like right in front of them. Like these things are monsters. And it takes a while, but the longer it goes, the more like that black and white becomes gray until now you're in season 4 where, you know, Aaron's attacking whatchamacallit,
Marley.
yeah, Marley, and he's leaving the same wake of devastation that was left on him in the beginning. So yeah, you see Gabby and you see was it Falco or whatever it is, and they're going through the same shit that he went through. So now, especially more so Gabby than Falco, it's almost like they are Aaron and Armin from the first season, where one's calm and chill and just like, you know, trying to keep things level, and one is just ready to go kill everything. And it's like until, like you said, until what's her name? Is it? It's not Yara. What's the girl? Nora?
I can never remember her name, but you know what I'm talking about, the one that Sasha.
Yeah. Who and then she's having a conversation and she doesn't even know that she's talking to the kids that killed Sasha, or kid. The Falco didn't have anything to do with it. But it's a trip. Like it's just great to see the whole thing go in reverse, and curious to see how they end it, because they've sort of already brought it full circle by the middle of the 4th season. So even now, I still have, I don't remember how many episodes there are in season 4. Is there so far? Is there 29 so far?
I think there's like, that's a good question. I want to say 27, but like, but I just smiled so hard when you said you wonder where it's gonna go. Ooh. It's gonna go.
Yeah. And what's cool too, you pointed it out, the season 4 is being produced by somebody else, and
yes.
You can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can tell. Looks like there's 29 episodes of season 4.
So you're right.
Yeah. So I'm on.
What are you on?
I'm
like,
on.
tell me where you left off.
I'm on. This doesn't number. Oh yeah, it does. So I can't remember if I finished or if I'm just on episode 12. Because episode 11 is where they meet the girl.
Oh, okay. So the most emotional shit hasn't happened yet with the girl. Okay. So I'll shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen much of Zeke this season.
Oh, you
and I know he's coming.
Oh yes.
So
oh yes.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff in the works for sure.
Oh yes.
So we'll see.
So you haven't even heard about like, so have they got to like Zeke's quote unquote plan, like what he wants to do?
Okay. Sort of. I don't think they've unraveled the whole thing yet. Like, okay. I think what they know is that he sent Aaron over there, but I think that's the gist of what they know.
Okay. Oh my God. All right. Yeah. Oh, cool. I mean, so and obviously, like, again, the reason why I'm so like, what's the word, grateful, is because this is not a show for the impatient. Like you went through, like you said, like it starts off black and white season 1, season 2, you start to see a little bit of the gray, little bit, but still pretty black and white. But you know, Emir and all, I mean, that whole Emir shit was also for me all like learning her origin story and how she's trying to say, Historia, live for yourself, don't live for other people, because this is what happened to me. Like, I loved that shit. Like that, another life lesson. Don't live for other people. Like to the point where you literally, because when they fucking sold her out as soon as they could, you know, and they still all get killed anyway, or not killed, turned into Titans. And then by season 3, it's like, Kenny. Actually, yeah, watch the English one. But anyway, when you see what's his name, Kenny's uncle or whatever, and I think you do find out what. Actually, yeah, you find out at the end it's his fucking uncle, Jack the Ripper, or whatever his name, Kenny. Yeah, Kenny the Ripper.
Yeah.
But and then like fucking Historia's dad turns into that fucking weird ass thing. You know, so that was like the for me the roughest part. Like I think season 3, part 1 was kind of you know, but upon rewatching it, I understood it more. But then that second part, when it's just like Reiner and Bertolt are just straight up now evil. Reiner's, you know, kill motherfuckers in the wall because Armin knew they were hiding in the wall. Zeke is like just throwing rocks at the whole fucking like squad and just killing them off. And then like, oh my God, Commander Irwin knows to make that diversion, kill off pretty much the entire scouts just so that fucking Levi can take out the Titan. Like, but what a loss. And then the decision, who gets to lead? Armin or Irwin?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. It's just, oh. Okay, anyway, this is going to be weird-ass content for people watching because I'm just like now just geeking the fuck out. I hope that you have horrible memories because I did spoil some shit. But like, just man, okay, I'm just saying all of that just to get to season 4, which I think personally, and you can tell me if you disagree. I think 4 is actually the best season. I mean, I like 4 a lot because it's just, but you need everything else to make 4 make sense. Kind of like Infinity War. I mean, you need the rest of the MCU to make Infinity War what it is.
Well, and I don't know if it's an advantage for you or a disadvantage for you that you waited. Like I have literally watched the entire show in like 2 weeks. So it's almost like it's one big season for me. There are breaks and you could tell, especially from season 3 to season 4, like there's a significant shift in everything that's happening. It's like you can tell that this is a new season. The other seasons you can tell, but it's not as dramatic. And so I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm necessarily at a disadvantage for in that way, but the story develops differently for me because it just keeps going. Like I'm not stuck waiting and thinking and overthinking it. I think I'll probably, take a few months, but if I get stuck without something else to watch, I'll probably have to give it a second watch. Partly because I did watch it a lot while I was working, so I had it on the background. So I know there's stuff that I missed. But at the same time, like it had me, like I was definitely paying attention more than I probably should have been as somebody working. But it's so good, and the characters are interesting. They're deep. They've got they got real stories to them, and there's characters that are super interesting and you don't know anything about them. Like for what it's worth, through most of the show you don't know anything about Mikasa. Like enough, like she was rescued by Aaron's dad and then kidnapped, and then Aaron killed the kidnappers because whatever, and so she's always been like his biggest offender, right? And when we laughed about it, and you found the video, and like for whatever reason, because especially like in the early seasons, he's kind of a wiener, Aaron, and Mikasa's, she's pretty dope. Like she could go out and catch a dude if she wanted to, but she's so fucking grumpy and moody the whole time too, that like you're like, you could just go get somebody else. You don't have to keep following this dude around. And it's now been like, I don't know how, is it like 5-10 years? Because it's 5 years between seasons 3 and 4, right?
I thought it was only 2, but you could
maybe it's 5 years from when they
started.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But either way, like the kids have grown up a lot,
Oh yeah.
And she still stands by him, So, I'm curious to see what they do with that, as it goes.
You asked me these questions, so I'm gonna ask you any predictions. I'm terrible at that shit. Do you have any predictions, especially since you are, you're a student of storycraft?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I feel like you still need a big loss. The story would almost benefit from wiping out the Titans at the end, right? And not leaving them hanging, because that's like, yes, in this world there's going to be war after that. Like, it's just this world is like our world. Like, people just can't fucking get their shit together, so everybody's fighting all the time. But I think the Titans are an imbalance in the power of the world, right? Like, if you had them all, if you had all 9, you rule the world. Like, it's just that simple, you know? And so if they're left around, then it's going to be whoever, it's still going to be a battle to either get them all, or if you have them all, to wipe everything, you know, wipe everybody else out, which the whole point of, and that's what's crazy too, is it in season 4 where they explain like the backstory and how the king was like, it is season 4 where the king set it all up. He's like, he made it all look like one thing so he could just get his people the fuck out of there and just have peace. Like, he's like, I'm done with this. He's like, I've kicked all the ass I can kick. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know for sure, but I feel like to close out the story, like to really bring it to a close where there's no Attack on Titan season 5 or Attack on Titan 100 years later or whatever, I feel like the Titans have to go.
Yeah, they are basically nukes. They're weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And that's like the other allegory with the show is like, whoever's got the bombs has the power, right? And then it's all about who hates who because of X reason. And the story with the little girl that Sasha saved, whose name we keep forgetting, when she's like, but why did my mom have to die? And they're like, well, it's because, you know, for thousands of years. She's like, yeah, but cool, but this happened now, so why did my mom have to die? She's like, oh, well 100 years ago. She's like, cool, but why now did my mom, who didn't do shit, have to die? And so it was just good. Like, that is like a thought-provoking moment just about the whole situation.
And again, to me, it goes beyond even war. It goes again to, like, you know, just isms. Like, yes, things have happened in the past, but if we're going to move forward, we're going to have to find a way forward. We have to break the cycle. And I just think that kind of storytelling, you know, should be celebrated and exposed to more people, because I do think they're good thought-provoking questions, you know, within a very entertaining, in my opinion, context. It's not dry.
Well, and I feel like season 4 must have been when this show kicked in for some of the intellectuals, like, right? Like, it always has been. Like, if you watch it, you can tell there's a lot going on. But like, this is the first season, just to use Hulu as the example, that when you log into Hulu, like, it's at the top of the page in the big, like, it's being pushed, and it's because I think it's a story for the times in its own way. Like, it fits the world. It's not just like, we're as great as Robotech was, right? Robotech was people battling space aliens, and sure, it had some allegories for its own time too, but the story itself was not, I don't think, as deep as this. And I think it deserves to be watched by more people. It's a weird show, so like, it's certainly hard to get into. Like, I can't look at somebody who doesn't watch anime and be like, yeah, just watch it. It's just people getting their fucking heads chewed on by giant baby looking monsters that are all fucking weird and run weird. Like, I'm like, you got to get through that, and it's weird because you can't skip it.
Right.
Like, every one of those moments is important, but it's really weird. Like, it's a really weird, because I think that's what always held me back. Like, because I watched the first episode 2 times before I finally got into this watch. And it wasn't that it wasn't good. It's just that I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then I got distracted and I would watch something else. And this time I was like, no, I'm gonna power through. And it happened that I started on a day that I wasn't super busy. So I watched like 8 or 9 episodes in a day. And they do go fast because they look like they're 30-minute episodes, but most of them have, you know, 3 minutes worth of intro credits and 3 minutes of outro credits, and you can skip that stuff, and it turns out each episode's about 20 minutes. So it can go really fast for you, especially season 2. Season 2 is the short one. Like you can knock out season 2 almost instantly. But yeah, I mean, what has it been, 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed that you watched it this quickly, because I couldn't do it that quickly, because I chew my food slowly. Like every when I intake anything, I luxuriate. It's just I can't breeze through shit. I just can't.
Yeah, and I have the advantage of having it all in front of me, and like I'm sitting here, I got my computer here, but if I turn this way, I got a 65-inch TV.
That's amazing.
Like 10 feet away, so I can just turn it on and watch and be right here and working during the day, and the TV's right there, so it works out. But yeah, it's been really good. Like I'm really stoked to be. Well, I don't know if I'm excited to be this close to the end or not, right? Because then it's going to be over, and I've been just tearing this thing up, and the worst part is that it's not going to be over. When I finish what I have, I still got to wait for that last episode,
which will be like in October. It'll be here in no time. So
so that's a good. It's been really good, and like I said, I like the characters. It's weird watching the American version, but I have to, just for the way that I watch it right now. You have some amazing actors. The guy that does Erwin is, I don't know who he is, but half the time he sounds like Jonathan Frakes. Like he sounds just like him. Like I'm like, holy shit, that's like I forget. Levi is played by a guy whose name is completely escaping me, but he's on Critical Role. Was it Matt Mercer?
I think I recognize that name from your
text. Yeah, I think it's Matt Mercer from Critical Role, and then Ashley Birch plays Sasha.
Yeah.
Sasha's fucking hilarious. Like
the English actor for Sasha, like that was the only thing, like, because when you watch the Japanese version, they don't say the potato needed shelter, so I gave it shelter. Like that was totally improvised.
So funny.
And I just love, and the potato girl, like she's, so that's why like it hurt. Like I think it hurt. Well, yeah, maybe I shouldn't spoil it for people, but anyway, Sasha was just like a great character. I totally spoiled it, but I don't care. Actually, I do care. Anyway, Sasha's amazing, and I'm glad the voice actor you noticed did a good job.
Yeah, I think those are the three of the best. It does suffer from the Americanized anime where everybody's yelling like so much of the time, and I'm like, that's not.
I also still hate Armin's voice. I think Armin's voice, I sent you that clip with the
it's a woman in Japan,
but it's just so much better, because also for the true like AOT fans, like the moment on the wall where like Reiner like Reiner's losing his fucking shit, right? So Reiner's like, hey Aaron, like, yeah, me and fucking Bertolt, we're the ones who did it. Come back, and like Aaron's like, what the fuck? And then like but in Japanese, like so when Mikasa like stabs Bertolt in Japanese, like Reiner's like Bertolto, like, so Bertolto, it becomes like it's like a thing. But anyway, but when you hear like how they say it in Japanese, it's just so iconic. Oh, that was so nerdy. Anyway, but yeah, I love that fucking moment. Like Aaron's just like, wait a minute, like, what are you saying? He's like, yeah, I'm the Armored Titan, and he's the Colossal Titan. And Bertolt's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He's just like, come with us, like, just come.
It'll be cool. And the other moments, it's like the big like fuck you to you when you're watching it is when they explain what happened to Marco.
Oh my god! And that fuck with Annie, I love you. Yeah, keep going. Sorry, but yeah.
Well, and he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like he overheard something, and he almost didn't say anything. Like he almost didn't like pick it up, and then he was like, "Wait, what did you guys just say?" And then they're like, "Fuck." And then they're like, "Cool, well, we're gonna have to kill you." And he's like, "Well, shit." And then Annie shows up, and he's like, "Oh, thank God you're here." And she's like, "Sorry, bro, I'm also," like, fuck. And then the worst is they're like, we're gonna take your super sweet jetpack, so you can't go anywhere. You're just gonna get eaten. And you're like, fuck. Like it's there's some serious brutality to the show that makes it really good.
Gene or John, the guy who was like Aaron's rival, like he's probably one of the most improved. Like he's actually the shit in season 4. Like he becomes a real leader versus just like that antagonist heel.
What does he call him in?
Horseface?
Yes, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Horseface, and then like, and I gotta say, like, I know a friend of mine doesn't get it, but like I like Reiner. Like I really do. I think that Reiner, like especially in season 4, you can tell he's just like, this sucks. Like I'm an asshole. Just
He's
and I love that.
He's one of the few that really gets what's going on now. Like it took him, because even in, I guess it's season 3, when he does the reveal, like he's up there and he's like, he has a moment where he really is between two worlds. Like,
Oh yeah,
and it fucked him up. And so when he sees it happening again, like he's like, fuck it. He saves that kid, I guess Falco, that he saves, and then he's just like, yeah, I'm done. He's like, just let me die. He's
and
like, just
Gabby's like Reiner, and he's just like, I love that moment where it's like she just screams Reiner, and then he finally boom gets up. But like,
but when he comes out, he's got like half of the armor. Like he's got no energy. Like and
it was
it's.
But then Aaron, I gotta give props to Aaron though. So Aaron though, like, see by like the end of season 3, he's just kind of like, he's whatever. But by season 4, you're seeing this cunning motherfucker. Like he literally, he's just brutal. Like he's just like he's deceptive. He's a great tactician. He's like, fighting, getting out, hardening, fighting again. Like he's just like he just.
Oh yeah, where he just literally, which nobody can do. Nobody's been able to do. And he's just like, cool, I've used this shell. I'm gonna jump. Like there's a point where he jumps out and literally instantly, like it just is in a new one, and you're just like, holy shit. Like he's been training hard to do this.
It's all about his willpower. And then here's the last thing I'll say, because we talked about it for a while, so you have fun with editing. But that moment where and you learn that the sergeant instructor, the sergeant guy was Grisha's friend, I want to say. So because he was in love with Carla, which is Aaron's mom. So he did not want Aaron to go into the war. So he actually gave him faulty ODM gear. Remember in the beginning?
Yep.
Couldn't stay up. But the fact that he was able to stay up with that faulty gear, that's when the sergeant guy was like, you know what? I tried Carla, but he's ready. So, all those little things were in it.